Welcome to Headline News. This is Maria Han. The U.S. Senate rejected Trump's veto of the National Defense Authorization Act. On Friday, January 1st, the U.S. Senate voted to override President Trump's veto of the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for 2021. The Senate voted 80-13 to pass the NDAA without the president's signature after a morning discussion, the first time in 4 years that a Trump veto had been overturned. The 13 senators who supported Trump's veto of the bill included 7 Republicans and 6 Democrats. The Republican senators are Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Mike Braun, Tom Cotton, Mike Lee, and John Kennedy. The Democratic senators are Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, and Ron Wyden. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said earlier this week that the Senate would vote to reject Trump's veto. On Monday, December 28th, the House had voted 322-87 to override Trump's veto. Now, with both chambers of Congress voting more than 2/3 in favor of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021, it will go into effect immediately. Trump vetoed the NDAA on December 23rd for a number of reasons, including wasteful spending overseas and because the bill did not remove Section 230, the social media liability shield, which provided big tech with protections that were not commensurate with its responsibilities, especially in light of the crackdown on conservatives by social media companies during the election. In addition, Trump said he was unhappy with the bill because it called for renaming some historic military installations and limits the president's authority to use military construction funds to respond to national emergencies. It also limits his efforts to bring the U.S. troops back to America. For all of these reasons, I cannot support this bill, President Trump said in a December 23rd statement. At the same time, he emphasized that he is a strong supporter of the military despite his veto. No one has worked harder or approved more money for the military than I have, over $2 trillion, the statement reads. During my 4 years, with the support of many others, we have almost entirely rebuilt the United States military, which was totally depleted when I took office. My administration has taken strong actions to keep our nation safe and support our service members, he added. Pence has the right to choose the electoral votes that are qualified. U.S. Representative from Texas, Louis Gohmert, says Vice President Mike Pence has the ability to choose the right presidential candidate and overturn controversial electoral college votes based on his opinion. Previously, Gohmert sued Pence over his request to block the state's electoral college vote on January 6th. Under the Constitution, he has the authority to conduct that proceeding as he sees fit. He may count elector votes certified by a state's executive, or he can prefer a competing state of duly qualified electors. He may ignore all electors from a certain state. That is the power bestowed upon him by the Constitution, Gohmert's lawyer said in a filing on January 1st. Earlier this week, Gohmert filed a lawsuit at the Texas federal court over Pence's exclusive dispute resolution mechanisms, demanding that he should be able to decide to count alternative electoral votes instead of having to count the disputed state electoral votes, and seeking to have Section 15 of the Election Count Act of 1887 declared unconstitutional. Gohmert's lawsuit stated that the court should declare that Pence has autonomy and not just a ceremonial role in the January 6th process over the choice of state electoral college votes. Lawyers in the U.S. Department of Justice representing Pence said Gohmert should have filed the lawsuit against Congress, not Pence's office. On January 1st, a Texas judge dismissed Gohmert's lawsuit against Pence on the grounds that the court lacked subject matter jurisdiction over the case. On January 6th, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley and several House members are expected to oppose the swing state vote count results in a joint session of Congress, sparking a 2-hour debate in each contested state. On December 14th, the Republican Electoral College in 7 states cast alternative votes to Trump versus Pence, which representatives in those states said was done to preserve Trump's subsequent legal challenges. Biden-nominated female Treasury Secretary received $7 million in speaking fees from Wall Street. U.S. media reports point out that Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's nominee for Secretary of Treasury and former chair of Federal Reserve Janet Yellen has collected $7 million of speaking fees from Wall Street tycoons over the past 2 years. According to a financial disclosure report released this week by the U.S. Government Ethics Office, Janet Yellen listed the companies and banks from which she received speaking fees and said she intends to seek written authorization from ethics officials to personally and substantially participate in matters involving them. The Associated Press reported that Yellen served as Fed chair from 2014 to 2018. During 2019 and 2020, Yellen received $7 million in speaking fees from speeches at companies such as Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and Google. A spokeswoman for the Biden transition said on Friday, January 1st, that since leaving the Federal Reserves, Yellen has spoken at economic conferences, universities, and to business groups and financial institutions about her experiences and her views on what we can do as a country to build a stronger economy and increase our competitiveness. In the 2016 presidential campaign, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was criticized by the left wing of the Democratic Party for charging lucrative speaking fees at the Wall Street firms. U.S. media reported that Yellen's economic policies are now supported by left-wing progressives in the Democratic Party. As reported by U.S. News, some advocacy groups began warning just after Election Day that Biden, who was a senator of Delaware for 36 years and served as vice president for 2 terms, could rely too heavily on officials with strong ties to past Democratic administrations. Many of those left public sectors posts for jobs in the private sector and are now seeking to return to government, raising concerns about the revolving door between policy and corporate and financial influence. Biden said he is not afraid to rely on advisors with extensive government experience and that he will assemble a cabinet well-versed in government with members from across the racial and ideological spectrum who will appear to represent a range of diversity. It is said that over 100 members of the House of Representatives will support Hawley's challenging the Electoral College. The U.S. Congress will count the Electoral College votes on January 6th. Senator Josh Hawley said he will challenge the fraudulent electoral votes. 2 Republican congressmen also told CNN that at least 140 Republican representatives are expected to come forward and oppose the Electoral College vote results. The U.S. Constitution requires that at least 1 member of the House and 1 member of the Senate must jointly dissent in order to challenge the congressional certification process for electoral votes. Senator Hawley, a Republican representing Missouri, has said last Wednesday, December 30th, that he will object, which will force members of the House and Senate to vote on whether to accept the results of the Electoral College vote. Currently, 14 Republican members of the House have publicly stated that they will vote against the bill, including Alabama U.S. Representative Mo Brooks, Georgia's Jody Hice, New Jersey's Jeff Van Drew, and South Carolina's Joe Wilson. In addition, 8 Pennsylvania Republican U.S. representatives also issued a joint statement last Thursday, December 31st, announcing their intention to join the opposition. In a statement last week, Senator Hawley noted that Democrats have also opposed the results of the 2004 and 2016 elections in order to raise concerns about election integrity. He said, "I cannot vote to certify the Electoral College results on January 6th without raising the fact that some states, particularly Pennsylvania, failed to follow their own state election laws, And I cannot vote to certify without pointing out the unprecedented effort of megacorporations, including Facebook and Twitter, to interfere in this election in support of Joe Biden. At the very least, Congress should investigate allegations of voter fraud and adopt measures to secure the integrity of our elections. But Congress has failed so far to act. Republican senators held a party conference call yesterday, planning to pressure Senator Hawley. However, Hawley's unexpected absence made the Republican bigwigs quite upset. Hawley also stressed again to the media to stand up for the American voters. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.